This is In the Middle with Josh and Sarah Siders. We get it. You're probably going through something that's asking you to dig deep, think differently, and hold on against the odds.
So these are our thoughts about starting new things, shutting some things down, and being with you right there in the middle.
Welcome back to the In the Middle podcast, the podcast for those of us who haven't arrived yet. I'm Sarah.
I'm Josh. Good to have you all joining us.
Yes, and we have a sponsor.
Who's our sponsor?
Our sponsor is the Fairmont Park Yacht Club.
Ooh,
yeah,
I've heard good things.
Swanky. Established in 2020.
Yeah.
So what is? Does anybody remember what was going on in 2020?
Oh, I think most of us have blocked it out.
Yeah, nobody was going to a yacht club. So I started this little side business with the kids, and we were doing screen print tees, and I thought it'd be really funny to make like, to make up like fake fancy places. And so I did like a rowing club and the Blue River Rowing Club and the Fairmont Park Yacht Club. The reason this is funny for those of you who like literally no one gets the joke. Right. It's very sad. The Fairmont Park
joke. So inside, everyone's on the outside.
Nobody got it. I was like, babe, Fairmont Park's a dog park and they play Frisbee and it'd be so funny if there was a yacht club.
Yeah.
And because it's right along the river. But, you guys, like, no one gets the joke. And I read this around town.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say Manhattan. That's part of the problem.
Right. Yeah, totally. So people.
And I should have had, like, a little symbol for, like, a dog and a symbol for a Frisbee. And it would have been funny.
I'll tell you what it reminds me of.
What?
College. I had some college friends, the guys in the fraternity, that had, like, the Manhattan Yacht Club, but it was a drinking club. And they would just go, I think, right after chapter meetings in their blue blazers.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Crack open beers and have it was a yacht club meeting. So every time you wear that, I'm just reminded of college. It sounds like a frat guy inside joke.
Oh my gosh.
I appreciate it.
Okay, I am the house mom of the fraternity here.
Is the
right?
The House Siders fraternity.
It's only boys, including the pets and me. I'm the house mom.
Well, it's cheers to the drinking club. The coffee.
Once again,
drinking
coffee. The coffee drinking club. One of our previous sponsors. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, coffee, for
sponsoring. Third cup of coffee, I think. Wasn't it? Or something like that? Afternoon coffee?
Yeah.
Afternoon coffee?
Yeah.
Anyway,
oh my gosh.
Shout out to the previous sponsors.
Yes. So I just have to make a little like pop culture reference for all my millennials and Gen Z, because if you're, or no, Gen X, because if you're listening,
you forgot
then you
about
might
us.
be.
So,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You're Gen X, forgotten forever. So I saw this on Instagram and it was like, it made me really happy. So back in 2005, I think you might have been aware of me or knew me, but people knew me as like kind of a fashion girl, whatever. So I loved fashion, and we did this other guy at the church that I was part of. We did this like women's conference, this girls conference, and we wanted to reenact the opening scene from What Not to Wear with Stacey and Clinton. Do you guys remember this? Stacey and Clinton, What Not to Wear?
Yeah, I was not. That was not my scene.
It was me and this guy. His name was Mitch, and he was like, just loved fashion as much as me. So we reenacted the scene, which was really fun. And I kind of have similar features to Stacey, like sharp, features and the dark hair. Mm-hmm. Well, I just saw her on Instagram and they were doing a reunion, her and Stacey and Clinton. And I was like, and I got all in the feels. It's been over 20 years. Yeah. And she has the same gray hair streaks that I do. And I was feeling so validated about my choices.
There you go. Yeah.
So anyway, it was just really exciting. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the gray hair situation that's happening. And I haven't made up my mind. Okay. So I'm not like one of those gray hair, I'm committing.
Right. Totally.
Let's talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like my whole personality, whatever. It's not. Okay. But anyway, I was just very excited about that, to see her and Stacey and Clinton. And it's like, how's it been 20 years? Do you just feel like that all the time?
Oh, totally.
Like, how's it been 20 years since whatever?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just can't even.
2020.
I can't even.
It was 25 years ago. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh, 20. Wait.
What was, or sorry, 2000. Year 2000.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So.
It was 25 years ago.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Anyways, this is what it sounds like when you just listen to two old people talking.
Old is relative.
It is.
We're young at
no,
heart.
but it's just so funny because you're like, I can't believe. Anyway, it just feels like that.
Yeah. True.
So yeah, today we're talking about this idea of like the mentor archetype. I think I'm
Yeah.
going to call it the mentor archetype. And
Archetype. That's
what would
good.
maybe you'd call it the guide, but
Yeah.
there is this kind of person that comes along in our life at the point where, like, if you think about the hero's journey,
Right.
you are embarking on your adventure, right? Your life adventure. And this usually is somewhere in your teens, late teens, early 20s. And your family has laid your foundation. You know, hopefully it's a good foundation. We're fortunate we had good foundations. If your family's laid your foundation, you have this like certain, you know, persona, these skills and talents. And if you're fortunate, I think you have these people that come along early in your life, in your career, and they are this guide, this mentor archetype. And I have just referred back to the one that I had at that time. And I just wanted to like, you know, talk through that a little bit about what that's like, how important that is for us. To have that, but also to be that, right? Like that's really so much of, I think, this point in our lives where not only are we having this opportunity to become this person, we're choosing sagehood, we're choosing the wisdom era of the second half of life, but we're also realizing that our kids are going to need this guide.
That's right.
Our kids are going to need this person. And so I just wanted to, you know, give a little, I guess you'd say, color commentary about this lady that I met. And I'd love to hear about, you know, who's been an influence for you. But this woman, when I was 19, I started working with this woman doing caregiving, like in-home caregiving. She was someone my parents knew from church. Her name was Pam. And she was like in her 50s. She lived in this, like the Birkenstocks wearing Democrats part of Kansas City, like super cool, you know, kind of downtown area. And she drove like a Volvo. I mean, she was like the whole package, you know, and she was just very opinionated and very elegant. And she had this way of speaking where she would like make this rectangle with her fingers and she would just like talk like this. And, you know, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see what I'm doing. But anyway, she had this way of speaking. And I just remember being so like admiring of her, how clear she was. She was an OG feminist. She'd done all this mission work and she'd adopted these girls who'd been in these abusive situation. And she was just living like full tilt. She was single. She'd been divorced. And she was living full tilt. And I learned so much from her, even though there were things I didn't like, you know, maybe she didn't check all the boxes for me, right?
Totally.
But she was somebody who showed me what it was like to be someone like me in the world. And I think that's the thing that feels like really critical here is this idea of being able to see someone like you, right? Your family's like teaching you values and virtues and laying a foundation, which is really important. But often our family isn't going to be able to say, this is what it's like to be you. And so having a guide, someone that you can relate to, that was really powerful for me. And so I just, you know, I've thought so much about her and like the lessons that I've learned from her and what a value that was for me being able to see her living that out. And so anyway, I mean, there's more to say about that, but I'd be curious for you, like what that's looked like in your life, the guide for you as a hero.
I mean, it's a great subject and I think there's a lot of on-ramps or a lot of, you know, room to explore.
Yeah.
For me, I think if the question is, how have you experienced mentorship? I would say I actually have had maybe a vacuum or a lack or like multiple letdowns. I think a lot of men can relate to that, like trying to find, in particular, older men to look up to.
Yeah.
There is...
Wow.
Yeah, I could tell you story after story. You know, in a lot of ways, I think coaches and teachers feel that when you're in your younger years when you're teens, even into your 20s. I think, and I had some good teachers, not many male teachers, when I was really young, but in high school, there were some male teachers that, I felt like looked out for me. But the relationship kind of ended at school. Right. Mm-hmm. And you're talking more like whole life mentorship, you're like whole life, like helping me become who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I had a coach, a wrestling coach who, really, I think, called me up and challenged me, but then I looked up to him in some ways, not always, but then he got fired. Right before I became a senior.
Whoa.
For inappropriate comments. And so it was really a bit like I was, I think a short time ranked in state, but had kind of this fill-in coach. And so I didn't go very far.
Wow.
So that was a huge letdown.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think even in my late 20s into my early 30s, I had a mentor that ended really messy and poorly as I stepped into being a pastor. So I've kind of had a few of those just massive, to me, points of like they were there for short stints. So in the classic kind of hero's journey, it really worked to get me to the next spot.
True. That's true.
But like the ending was messy for more times than not.
Huh.
And I've had a couple in particular that are really good and ongoing.
Yes.
But not as close anymore. So
Interesting.
it's just kind of a mixed bag. I think it's really important, but there's I don't know how I would describe it overall. I think there's overall, like, these relationships have been good, but they've also led to injury as well, hurt in the relationship, and sort of like crap, who can I trust? To open myself up to.
Yeah.
So that's what I see happening in my life. I
hate
think
that.
there are other men that relate to that, is the messy thing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of men who are trying to go it alone.
Yeah.
Not just because they don't know any better, but because it's like that question of like, oh, well, what now? Who now?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking about this, my original setup was kind of like, we have these families that are laying these foundations for us, but we're still needing that hero's guide.
Yeah.
We're still needing that person. And I think specifically the person who is similar to us. And I don't know if you would say your wrestling coach or this other mentor had these similarities to you, but if you think about the people, the relationships that have persisted or lasted, or there wasn't a messy ending or difficult ending, I would say that those were people that were like, they got you, or they were similar to you.
Because these men, who I'm referencing.
I do.
And I would say, they're men that I looked up to. And I was probably 7 years ago, I had a really, really, a question that a lot of pastors wrestle with is, how do I be friends with people in my congregation? Like I really want close friendship, and I wear multiple hats. So how do you manage that? And so I went to these two guys that I have in mind who have that similar personality type. They're INTJs and, they're ministry leaders, pastors, and asked them that question, like, how do you do this?
Yes.
And really great feedback, really great like support, and
Wow.
not brutal honesty, but just like compassionate candor about how it worked for them. So I appreciated that. And but it was, I think I felt like with these guys, they were a little bit more distant than close in a lot of ways, where it wasn't, I knew I could go, and I could still go to them, if I needed to.
That's great.
And so there was some,
cool.
I think like what you're saying is there's some similarities in personality where we got each other. Yeah. And we also knew where the rub was, or like knew the kind of like landmines there, and just proper expectation, I think, of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different roles that these kinds of people can play in your life, and how you access the wisdom of that generation, like the wise person.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 3 ways, and if you have some additional, I'd be curious to hear. So there's the kind of like intentional, I see you as a mentor. Maybe you're my supervisor, or you're somebody who is investing in me. You're a coach.
Yeah.
You are somebody who, like, we have an intentional relationship of you passing wisdom on to me, and it's an intentional designed relationship in some way.
Right.
In some ways you had that with these 2 men that you're speaking of, and then you also had some ones that didn't go well.
Right.
But it was the ones that it was an intentional design, and it was similar to you.
Yeah.
That was really, really
Yeah.
amazing and,
Yeah.
and lasting. I think when I think back to my relationship with Pam, there wasn't an intentional thing. I just worked for her.
Right.
I was just by osmosis, by environmental, influence, learning from her. She would say, like, here's how you know that this is the right man for you.
Yeah.
When the knots in your head fit the holes in his. And, I watched her like work out relationships and be with somebody. I think she got divorced a second time. It wasn't like she was figuring everything out perfectly. But I just loved how she thought about things. And I used that criteria to get married to you, right?
There you go. Thanks,
like
Pam.
the knots in my head fit the holes in yours. And I just thought that was so lovely. And so it was just really interesting. It wasn't an intentional relationship. So sometimes it's like someone that you admire, someone that you see yourself in. And she became, for me, like, the 55-year-old voice in my head that I could reference. So she was there in my life. She was showing me what it would be like to be a vocal, powerful, influential, intense woman in my 50s. And she gave me an archetype for myself to reference. And that was very powerful, even though it wasn't intentional. And I think the third type that shows up that maybe we don't have an intentional relationship, or maybe we don't have anybody environmentally to pull on, but we can go, and I think is really powerful, pulling on a composite, maybe somebody from the past, somebody who is from television that you can see, and then you see how they're relating to people. You see how they're having, running their family. I mean, lots of people got inspiration from Ted Lasso about his like kind but differentiated self, and how he would, stay curious and not judgmental. A lot of people have gotten, inspiration from, Liam Neeson characters or different things like that, where you, go, oh, that's what that person looks like. And I've referenced a lot of TV characters in responding to conflict or whatever, just kind of loading the programming of my own mind by how someone else does something.
Right.
And so I don't think the person has to be real. And I don't think we have to know them.
Well, there's something called the Batman effect that speaks to that. It's the idea that, your brain can't tell the difference between like what you envision, right? What's reality and what you are envisioning.
Whoa.
It's just a thing in neuroscience where what we envision, our brain will react to.
Wow.
Which is why fear is really powerful, because even if it's not real, our brain is still processing it as if it is. So anyway, the Batman effect says that, like, I can think about who I want to be, and I will move toward that, becoming that person. So I can put on a persona, kind of like what you're talking about. It's like, I want to be more like this actor. I want to be more like Batman and not afraid of the dark, or something like that. And I can like emotionally, mentally picture that, and then show up as that person. So in the sense of like a mentorship, I think that takes away the excuses of just going, well, this is just who I am, and this is who I'll be, and I've never had the help to do anything different.
Whoa.
Like you can go,
That's
well,
so
how would Ted Lasso, like how would he speak into my life? How could I show up more like him in a scenario, that sort of thing, and actually like do a brief mental pause to like put on your best Ted Lasso impression, and then show up as that person.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, in a way, you can create a mentor that you've never had by just doing that work of like, I really like that, and I want to be more like that person.
Yeah.
and growing into it that way.
Yeah. And you've talked about this idea of like the board of advisors, like people that I don't know.
Yeah. That's the original like mastermind group. I think
Oh.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, right? He advocated, I don't know actually if it originated with him, but he suggested having your own personal board of advisors. People you want to like learn from, who you have personal contact with.
Yeah.
That you can call up and go, hey, I have this decision to make. What would you tell me? You know,
Yeah.
and that I think it can be formal. I think it can be informal, but it's a handful of people that you really trust more than yourself
Yeah.
to help you think through an important decision, and then just like heed their advice or don't. But at least you are better informed than you were.
Yeah. And I think what that does, and again, I think your board of advisors could be made up of your intentional mentors.
Yeah.
Your mentors that are just in your life.
Right.
Or kind of like people that you look up to. And then your composites,
Yeah.
like the TV characters or people from the past. You could, resource yourself from that, because I'm thinking about how many times when I've been in a hard situation, I have people who care about me, who I can talk to,
Yeah.
who are going to advise me, pray for me. But a lot of times people, when I feel like I have a specifically personal decision to make, I can often guess what people are going to say because
Yeah.
of how it's going to affect them, especially if it's a big risk.
Yeah.
And so I've needed to have these other archetypes in my mind.
Yeah.
I've needed to have people who I could reference, again, people I've never met. Somebody that I have pulled from in the last few years is Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. Iron Lady.
Yes. And just how like poised she was.
Yes. Yeah.
I've of course like Judi Dench as M in, James Bond.
Yeah.
These very like powerful women, Layla Hermosi, who's real,
Yeah.
and in her 30s, she's younger than me, but just like her directness and her
That's right.
powerful, like that's who I resonate with. And people like that give me permission to be myself.
Yeah.
Christine Kane is a, I don't know. She's a speaker, author, preacher.
Right.
And she speaks with incredible power and directness. And sometimes I like to have fun when I'm communicating.
Yeah.
And the ADHD kicks in.
Yeah.
I like sort of become the comic relief, but I'm like, I'm communicating at certain times. I'm not there to be the comic relief. Sometimes I'm meant to say something very direct, and I have to pull from these archetypes. I have to pull from these people and go, how does this person who takes themselves seriously and the message they have seriously show up? And I can shift into that mode.
Yeah.
And so it's this internal like micro board of advisors. It is the people I know.
Right.
I'm very fortunate to have really great people in my life, and I always have. But also, I go, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what would Margaret Thatcher, what would Christine Kane, what would Layla Hermosi do?
Right.
And I pull on that.
And I think, so I want to kind of loop something you just said with something you said earlier that I think is really important to say. The first being that we need mentors because our family of origin can't give us everything that we need.
Yes. Yes.
And we can be
good.
as grateful and as thankful for all the good that they pour into us, all the values and virtues, that, as you mentioned, that they help develop.
Yes.
And yet the American nuclear family is not robust enough to speak into us and give us what we need, because we're not carbon copies of each other.
Right.
There's things that my sons need that I can't give them.
Yeah.
And it's my job as a dad
Yep.
to find people, good, solid people that I respect or that have the skills and talents that I don't have, to bring them in the orbit so that my sons can be who they are, not just be me.
Wow.
Right? So I think that's
so good.
really important,
That's
is
so
that it's a
good.
both and. It's not an either or, right? Mentors are not a threat to me as a dad.
Right. Oh my gosh. That is so true.
Or to you as a mom.
Yes.
So that's really important.
That is so good.
You can be thankful and say, I don't have everything that I need.
Absolutely.
Or that I want. So,
Absolutely.
and then secondly, something you kind of briefly touched on is that a board of directors for your life, mentors, right, that you bring in, a tribe of mentors, if Tim Ferriss, his book that he wrote.
Yeah.
We need people sometimes outside of our system to speak into it.
Yes.
Right? Because if
Yeah.
we're just
Oh, yeah.
getting advice from people that our decisions directly affect,
Yep.
we may not be getting the best objective decisions. So we actually need people that go, I care so much about you. I don't really care about this stuff down here, right? I'm going to give you the best piece of advice from the outside. And it's like so refreshing, and it's disruptive.
Yes.
Which is good and bad, right? Because
Right.
having a board of directors means you're also going to hear things you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, I've been invited
true.
before to be a mentor to someone, and I said some things, and they left my life.
Yeah.
And I was the kindest, gentlest that I could be, but it's like,
Wow.
hey, I see you doing this,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to wreak havoc, and it's going to have some fallout, and they cut me off, and it's like, okay, you weren't ready for me then,
Yeah.
and that's okay. So that's the other side, is
Wow.
like being ready to be a mentor, but my big point in saying that is like, you want people that will not agree with you on all the things.
Oh my
That's the whole
gosh.
point of having them in your life, is that I don't have what I need to get where I need to go. And I need someone to just, who's
Yes.
maybe been there or is doing the things I respect, to tell me what it's like.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, being able to handle feedback that's not what you want to hear. I remember when I was starting out, or I wanted to start my business. It was 2017. I was working on the military installation. I'd been in the hospital for like 8 or 9 years, and I'd always been kind of a rebel in that environment. Like, you know, it's like funny to say military hospital rebel. What does that even mean? But I just didn't fit. I was always starting things. People didn't know what to do with my ideas. And so I was always kind of that misfit, right? And it was always like me trying to go, what can I do next? How can I, leave this environment that doesn't understand me? And I really tried to lean in the best that I could eventually to go, okay, how can I be shaped by this thing that doesn't understand me? That's still me being understood isn't like the highest goal for my character and virtue, right? Like I need to be in an environment that shapes me. So I tried to let it do that, but then I was like, all right, I think I'm ready to go. And I started consulting some of the, people that I really respected in that space who were in the environment and knew me, and they knew that I pushed up against things. Yeah. And I was like, they're going to say no, they're going to tell me no. And what am I going to do? And I really cared about their opinion. And what was interesting was at that time where I had really like worked up to it and was ready to go, they were like, yep, you're ready. Wow. It was so interesting because I was expecting them to be like, you're a rebel. But one of my, archetypes at that time, who I've referred to a lot, she's another woman who I was really grateful to have. Her name was Linda. And she was like, Sarah, are you going to be a rebel or a maverick?
Ooh,
she's like, a rebel just isn't whatever everybody else is. A rebel's just the negative of, the opposite of, pushing up against. But a rebel isn't defined. A maverick is making their own way. And I was like, that is the best call out for me, the absolute best call out. Yeah. And she was kind of like, you're being a rebel, you know? And so I think I've tried since then to realize I have a rebel tendency, but I want to be a maverick. So it was like I tried to let that form in me, and I was ready at that point to actually step out and create something new and not just resist the environment. But it was like her having said that, she became one of the people who could affirm that I was ready. Yeah. And so that role was there. It was really, really amazing. And again, I'm just like, I think that part of what happens in our lives is that, like you're saying, when you're not willing to hear from other people who know more than you, when you're not willing to hear something you don't want to hear, you're going to hear less. You're going to get less advice. You're going to get less wisdom. You're just not going to hear it as much because you're not going to notice it. You're not going to, to build the relationships with the people that are going to be truth tellers. Right. And I think that as much as I have been a rebel, I still really care about doing the right thing. And I have, that like desire to hear from other people and be stopped. Like I'm going to go full tilt. So if you can stop me, you should try, So I think that, for those of us at different points of our lives, like I'm thinking about the role that I'm playing now is a guide for women who are navigating midlife. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm in it too,
Yeah.
you know, but I've needed guides. Like just a few years ago, I was working with a therapist. And as I was entering midlife and so disoriented, and it was like, I needed somebody at that point. I think every time we're going through these transitions, even though we say, yes, the second half of life is about becoming that wise person, I think you also will find that there will be people that you need to look to for that next iteration of who you're becoming.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the hero's journey. You have a few people that pop up and then that's it. And now you're the guy, you know,
Right.
it's like, I think you're like, it's good to continue to seek out those voices
Right.
that potentially would be a voice of dissent or a voice of disagreement or potentially pushback. And to be able to use,
Yeah.
to build that board of advisors and have those voices throughout your life.
Yeah, that's good. And I think speaking as a pastor, one of the disservices the church has done is minimize the voice of mentorship because we've elevated discipleship as kind of this end all be all. So this may not click with like all of our listeners or watchers, but I think it would be important to break this mold of like, you gotta be discipling people, you gotta be mentoring, because that's just a different relationship. And when we approach these relationships in the faith community as kind of a one size fits all, we actually miss out on the other robust ones that should be available to us. So I think I would love to see mentorship restored to a respectful place in the church. Like mentorship is like, you're not necessarily, the mentor isn't coming to find you. You have to go find them. You have to invite them. You have to buy their coffee. Discipleship a lot of times is like this discipling person finding people, and that's totally legitimate and good.
That's
but
an
mentorship is like
distinction.
they're available, but they're not gonna, they might check in and say, "How are you doing?"
Wow.
But they're not hounding you to hang out.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
But we have
So
again in the
true.
church kind of minimized the importance of that, and I think we've really cut off a lot of important voices. And so I'd love to see a restoration of growing into being mentors for the younger generation. Because there's a guy in our church, and he has seen me as a mentor to his son, and we have a great relationship. And I'm able to say some things here and there, check in, that sort of thing. But it's not this regular like expectation that I'm available, but I'm not. That's not like the understanding of the relationship is that I'm going to constantly be doing whatever. But he's so appreciative because what it was that I was telling his son or saying things in messages that he was telling him at home.
Wow.
And it was this sort of like validation and backup.
That's so cool.
And we need that. Like as dads, we need men in our sons' lives who are telling them the same thing that they can't or have a harder time hearing from us, or at least need the triangulation of like, yep, see, they're saying the same thing. And it was amazing. So like there was just these high fives given behind the scenes of like, yeah, man, we're on the same page. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
so I'd love
funny.
to see more of that. That's a
Wow,
viable
so
and in some senses validating relationship.
I think there's something that, man, that's so interesting to think about, because the idea of the discipler, like I don't even know. Okay. So I'm thinking about just the model of Christianity typically is like somebody who, is practicing their faith, and part of the practicing their faith is, investing in friendships and relationships that it may be younger people that they can, help grow in their faith or take steps towards their faith.
Yeah.
And this is just like the model, right? And it almost becomes like that's how mentorship, like you're saying, is done, when in reality, I've had to go get mentors. Like if I want somebody, it's like I'm going to watch all their YouTube videos. I'm going to like watch the Margaret Thatcher documentary, or I'm going to like go to their class or show up and like I'm like, I will clean your bathroom, right? Like get up in their space, and they're not looking for me. They don't need me.
And those are some of the best mentors out there.
Yes.
Honestly. So if we kind of switch over to like, how do you find a mentor?
Yeah.
They're hard to find. Good ones, good, humble ones are hard to find because a lot of them don't think they have a lot to offer. Right? Because they're like, what, me? Like, and they're just living their life and they're faithful to their family. They have a vibrant faith a lot of times. Not to say people without a faith can't mentor. They totally can. But, most of our listeners and watchers are they're going to have some sort of faith background. But they're going to be your kind of everyday people. But they're doing, life has done its work in them. And they've got character formation. They have deep values.
Yes.
But they're not, I'm thinking of the critical journey. If they're stage 5 and 6, they're not, showy.
Right.
They're not pretentious.
Yep.
They're not trying to convince people they're all that. So they're kind of hidden. They're the hidden gems of culture. And so you've got to go sit on their couch. You've got to knock on their door and say, can I pick your brain? Can I buy you coffee? Can I take you out to lunch? Because they're not doing that for you in the sense of let me tell you how to run your life. So how do you find mentors? I think you have, in previous seasons, I was so impressed by flashy, loud people. And I realized they're more flash in the pan.
Yep.
Than
Burnout.
The light and the heat that I really needed in my life. So it's it shifts who I'm looking for.
Yes.
I still respect success, but I don't respect success at the expense of character.
Yeah.
At the expense of family.
Yep.
Devotion, things like that. So it has shifted into kind of this non-flashy, non-showy, quiet.
Yeah.
Multiple decade faithfulness. That's what I'm impressed by now.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, I totally relate. And it reminds me of the relationship I've had with the title of one of Eugene Peterson's books.
Yes.
If you have ever heard of the Message translation, you might have heard of Eugene Peterson, pastor for a long time, author. And he wrote this book called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction.
Yep.
And I think in my 20s and 30s, the mentorship of that title, right?
Yeah.
The title is a mentorship statement or a mentorship phrase. And when I was younger, I was like, what? What? What does that mean? And it felt so irrelevant. It felt so meaningless. It felt like it wasn't how is that what living your life or living your faith out is like?
Right.
But then you get into midlife and you get into that valley between mountains and you go, there's another mountain. And you realize, long obedience in the same direction.
Yeah, it's so good.
So I think that, you're getting mentored by someone like that.
Yeah,
just even
absolutely.
through a phrase.
So interesting. Fun fact first.
Yes.
Let me nerd out. The book is actually, the title is from Friedrich Nietzsche. I don't know what the context is, but it's really interesting that he used that as a book title. The book itself, and I'm halfway through the book, so it's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's about the Psalms, a set of Psalms in particular that are called the Ascension Psalms or the Psalms of Ascent. It's the Psalms that the Jewish pilgrims would sing and recite on their way to Jerusalem for different feasts. And the thing about Jerusalem is it's set up on a hill or it's set up on a mountain.
Yeah.
And so when you're going to Jerusalem, you can see it off in the distance, but you're going up and down through these the foothills of Israel on the way there. So you're singing these Psalms of Ascent that are up and down and up and down and up and down.
Wow.
And that's and the big title, the big idea of the book is The Long Obedience in the Same Direction, because it's we're headed to Jerusalem.
The direction, but the topography changes.
Exactly. So I think you're right on. I think you're right on about.
That's so interesting.
I want more people in my life, and I want to become the kind of person who has a long obedience in the same direction, no matter the ups and downs, and kind of enduring and even kind of looking forward to the ups and downs as a regular part of the rhythm of life.
Wow, looking forward to well, everybody just take a minute with that, because I think I have only since just started to accept that life is up and down, and and wrestled with it, because it felt like it's like I'm doing something wrong when there's a down.
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing better, then it'll be just up and to the right. And we've talked about this many times.
Yeah.
but that's just what I used as criteria for success. And like, you're breaking through, you're really an adult now,
Right.
you're somebody, and it's just getting better. And so this idea of like accepting was a breakthrough, kind of. But then to go look forward to it and be like, that's how it is. You're on the road. You're on the pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Oh,
man. I think that shows, because I'm right there with you. I think it's been the last couple of years, last year, where it clicked about like, oh, this is how it is.
This is just how it is, yeah.
Because I think I bought so much into the American prosperity gospel.
Yep.
Of like, things are up and to the right. God is going to bless you. And
bless.
it's everywhere
Let
in the
those blessings
Bible
stack
that
up.
that's not true. And it's everywhere in people's lives that that's not true. But we've been gaslit by the American
Capitalist
prosperity
Jesus.
gospel. Yeah, exactly. Of like, well, if you're doing the right things, God's going to bless you and it's going to all work out. And I believe it's going to work out. It's just that there's pain on the way. So it's been really, I think, refreshing to go, no, this is it. This is training for the harder things, the bigger, more impossible situations that I'm called to step into.
Yeah.
And so this is actually good and strengthening for me. But back to our, bigger point is like, we need mentors that can kind of shake us out of the la land of like, are you kidding me? Do you know how hard this is? Do you know how many years I labored to get to where I am? You didn't see any of that, but this is what you're going through is normal. We need those kinds of people that speak truth to the illusion of comfort, whatever it is that we're trying to believe in more than the reality.
Man, yes, we do. And we need to be willing to hear it. We need to be the people that would speak it, and we need to be willing to hear it.
Absolutely.
And I think especially now, like when you can literally curate your own little echo chamber of like truth that's at the temperature that you want it.
Oh my goodness.
It's like,
and you like these days
goodness.
used to be so it used to be that you were shooken awake by the community that you lived in. But so many of us these days can go find whatever voice to agree with us. I can find whatever online community or following that are just going to be that echo chamber for me. So
be around people who don't agree with you. What is it? The Rivals? What was that book?
The Team of Rivals.
Team of Rivals.
Yeah, Abraham
Lincoln's administration.
Doris Kearns Goodwin. She wrote a book called Team of Rivals. It's about Lincoln and his cabinet, and he assembled a cabinet from other political foes.
Incredible.
Within and without his party.
Wow. Because
he needed the best, smartest voices to navigate through the Civil War.
Unbelievable.
And so he didn't have this echo chamber. It was men at the time.
Yeah.
It was all men who wanted the same thing, the success of the Union, the nation.
There you go.
But didn't agree necessarily how to get there. Wow. But they needed the wrestling match.
Whew. Man, it's so much more work for your soul when you have to wrestle against like dissent, but it's so much better for you. It's so much better for you. And I mean, like, we have so many versions of echo chambers right now.
Yeah.
And people making echo chambers at every level of government.
Right.
Because they want to hear what they want to hear. And it's like, we have to be committed to hearing things we don't want to hear.
Yep.
We have to. Oh my goodness. And so mentors are part of that. Mentors, the archetype of the mentor, like, may we be ones who are willing to speak, the truth and receive it.
Yeah.
And always becoming that for people. So anyways, and thank you to all of the people that have been part of our lives and man, Pam was one of my first ones, but referenced her so many times. I don't know. It's so cool. You just don't have to have all your crap together to be that person for someone.
Right. It's true. It's true.
Like, I don't know if she knows that she became the 55-year-old me when I was 19 years old. What is that? 36? Is that 36 years? Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I had like 36 years of wisdom, always to reference.
That's good.
In my head.
Really good.
So I gotta hit her back up because I've told her this before, but I gotta hit her back up because we gotta let those mentors know they're making.
We do.
Difference.
It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah.
And some of them, that could mean a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
some of them are just living their lives, and it's like you tell them thanks, and they're like, for what?
Yeah.
You know, but some of them are like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, I just love that she was so willing to be so bold and crash around.
And I think the good thing about a mentor is like a broken mentor means you're not putting them on a pedestal.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we get really let down by the people we just think are the end all be all, and then they're human.
Yep.
So,
man, that's so true. Yeah, I didn't really have like a lot of illusions. I just loved how I'm just like so impressed with her.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
Her. Yeah, the substance,
Good.
you know. Anyway,
and I would say, let me just, if I could end with this, like it's worth it. It's you know, we're not promising anyone's going to be that perfect person for you to get all your needs met. That's just not going to happen.
Replacement parent.
Yeah, replacement parent. Nope. They may help you to process some of that, but you know they're going to have their own stuff they're bringing too. But it's so worth it to have. People in your life that can speak truth, who care about you, and are rooting for you, but also like check your expectations. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to have their own idiosyncrasies, foibles, blind spots that you might be able to see better than them. And so, especially for you men, it's really important that you have other men in your life that can be whatever it is, whatever you consider them, your mentor or your personal board of directors, or just a buddy that you can bounce ideas off of. It's so important. It's worth the risk of getting back in there and trying to find that person or those people.
Wow, it's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I think like knowing that this person is not going to be perfect, the disappointment that we've all felt is part of why it breaks down and why we don't seek those people out. But it's like, I'm still grateful for even the times when people didn't, it didn't always go well. It's like, I look back and I'm like, part of that was still helpful. I'm still going
to commit to being a learner, and I'm going to learn from crappy situations that I didn't choose.
It's not like, oh, they have this one part of them, I'm going to write them all off.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope people don't do that to me, but they might.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just like, if I was able to do, you know, like benefit so much from Pam, even though she had, you know, humanity going on.
Right.
It's like, I believe that people can get that from me.
That's right.
I'm hardcore. So only people who want hardcore, that's what you get.
That's
and if you don't want that, that's fine. I'm not for you.
That's right. Yes. So much yes to all that.
Anyway, ready to embrace that fully. All right. Well, what are you reading, watching, or listening to?
Yeah.
These
Well,
days?
I mentioned it already, so I'm going to give it a shout out. The Long Obedience in the Same Direction.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned it once before. I've actually been slowly going through it, but anyway, I am reading that.
A long read
really
in the same direction.
It's a long obedience in the same book. So
that's great.
it's really, really good though.
Oh, that's so good. I'm, you know, I like my magazine, my long form reading.
You do, yeah.
So deep dive on John Thune, Senate Majority Leader, guys. I know you're like nerdy, but so good.
Yeah.
I love me some, you know, rational Republicans. I do. I still love them.
New Yorker?
The New Yorker.
Okay, yeah.
I'm reading about thermodynamic AI and some other things, which is pretty interesting. The accelerationist movement that's like effective altruism, but it's not that. It's effective accelerationism, and it's like letting technology like go at the speed that it wants to instead of like slowing it down.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's like a philosophy. It's a theory, but there's some people who are into it. So anyway, that's an interesting thing I've been reading. So somewhat nerdy.
Yeah.
But I like my articles. I'm not as good with books as you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Anyway, well, what are you loving right now?
What am I loving? Oh, I don't know. That's a great question. I actually was not ready for that question. Come back to me.
Okay.
How about you?
Come back.
I'm gonna think about it.
Yeah. Well, I see.
I got one. Okay, but go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I think I'm loving my hormone replacement therapy that I'm starting.
Okay.
But like, we'll see, right? So if I'm on here, you know, in a few weeks, and like, I don't know, I'll look crazy or act crazy.
She's
more than normal.
She's looking at me in that weird way.
It's the HRT. But yeah, it's been one of those things like
Okay.
all of us women, of a certain age, we talk about this and I'm like finally pulling the trigger. So anyway,
good.
I think I'm loving it. It's helped me in the past when I've used
Yeah.
it. So I'm just,
Good.
yeah.
You have to let us know.
Yeah. I'll announce. I know it's weird, but I'm like, we talk about this now. So
It's
we're
true.
talking about
It's
hormones
true. There we go.
on this podcast. Yeah. You can bet. What about you? What do you love?
So what I'm loving, I loved our group last night.
Oh my
and
gosh.
the food is awesome.
Seriously.
We had last night. We took a break over spring break and missed our Irish theme.
Yeah.
So we circled back last night, and it was great.
So good.
So like Irish soda bread,
Yes. Homemade.
cabbage and potatoes.
Yeah.
You made shepherd's pie.
Yeah. From scratch, like full
Oh
out
my
from scratch.
gosh! Oh, we had
And
bread
those
pudding.
little sliders,
The sliders.
with the sauerkraut or something.
Y'all,
in there.
if you're in Manhattan, you got to come to our group. We
Our
have
group.
good
Everybody
food.
makes
Next
the
Wednesday
best food.
is going to be food on a stick.
Guys,
You said kebabs, and I was like, hey, let's just broaden this. So popsicles and cake pops make sense for that.
it was I was like food on a stick. Hilarious.
I would say turkey legs make sense.
Turkey
for
legs,
food on a stick.
Yeah, I mean the stick is the bone. Oh.
Have some
That is
Ren
very
Fair
medieval.
turkey legs.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm looking forward to Wednesdays for the food.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
And the company.
The
but
food and the company.
But the food that the company brings is
it
never misses.
No,
It never misses.
We are solid,
Yeah.
like solidly, delivering
Yes.
on cuisine.
Yeah, absolutely.
With our, we threatened to do like a cereal night.
Yeah.
and we haven't done it yet.
We haven't done
We
it
have a
because-
nutritionist in our midst, and
That's
she's
true.
cheap at keeping us straight. But last night when it was Irish theme, I was like, I wonder if someone's going to bring Lucky Charms.
Yeah,
or
oh,
Guinness.
Right.
Nobody did Lucky
Right.
Charms or Guinness
That's
because you
okay.
could just show up with Lucky Charms and Guinness.
Yeah.
And I would be
There
like,
you go.
that's solid
Okay,
right there.
you're in.
Like, like if that was
I
just
mean, let's
all
be
we
honest.
did, I would be fine with that.
Any night, somebody could show up with Lucky Charms and Guinness and we'd let them in, right? Let's
I'd be like,
honest.
well,
okay,
that is
get us.
that's acceptable around here. I have yet to have that for dinner, although maybe I did in college. I wouldn't put it past me.
There you go. I wouldn't either. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, we've got some more great topics coming your
Yeah,
way
yeah.
for midlife. But we hope you've enjoyed this conversation. We hope that you're taking the steps to build that team of advisors, be a mentor, seek out mentorship, do what you need to do to get in somebody's space, and be influenced by them. And definitely plan on being a mentor, because
right.
if you're lucky enough to step into the wisdom era, you have something to offer. So don't hold back. And so until then, we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
This is the In the Middle podcast with Josh and Sarah Siders. Visit inthemiddlecoaching.co for other resources, courses, and helpful tools.